Hello, hello.
Hi, Kate. What's going on?
How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you today?
Good. You can hear me okay? I got
Yes,
my
I can.
my AirPod in. Okay, great.
Yeah. No, I can say everything sounds great. Great to meet you. Thanks for taking a minute out.
You too. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Where are you located?
Today I'm in Laguna Beach. How about you?
Wow, that's paradise. I'm in Kansas City. I'm landlocked in the middle of the map.
Well, I'm from Cincinnati and I'm flying there tomorrow night to sell my house there. So
Okay.
I'm a Midwestern gal at heart.
Okay.
Actually, just by birth, not by heart, or I'd still be there.
Right. No, I get it. I will tell you this, there is an interesting rivalry with Kansas City and Cincinnati. That mayor made a big mistake this year.
What an idiot. Why are people so dumb? The
Who
question of the century, right?
So the question is, okay, now if you're a politician, the chance of you doing something like that and being dumb is pretty big. But the advisors who around him said, yeah, that's a great idea, really pissed this team off that already wants to beat you, and you're calling it Burrowhead. What are you doing?
Idiot. I just, so many people, I feel like it's actually the people in these positions of power are often the dumbest
Yeah.
and out of integrity, uh, leading with ego rather than heart and
Uh-huh.
intelligence. Well, that's a whole other podcast and conversation, right?
Yes, it is. So let's get into you and your life. And to begin with, I want to ask you, how did you survive COVID? It was quite a thing for the last 3 years for all of us. How did you get through it? And how has it changed the way that you do things now?
Wow. Well, I got through it, I had a 90,000 word manuscript that was due July of 2020 that I didn't start on until about April 1st because I was graduating from Columbia University, getting a master's degree, got out just before lockdown, had a few things to finish, online remotely. And then I had this passion project, the, greatest life assignment that I've had to this date. And it's a legacy and you don't want it to just be okay. It's not like just turning in the assignment and you're like, I just want to pass. It's your first book. So I just poured my heart and soul into that and focused on it. And I was writing it where people were just hurting more than ever. The isolation. I am aware of the fact that so many people do not have the tools, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or practically. And so just really taking all of my knowledge, research, inspiration from everything I've been through and putting it into this passion project really helped me get through. And then the thing about writing a book, you need to live it and live those words. And so my own challenging moments, I had a life resource tool to refer back to, and I had thousands of people that I felt responsible for to show up for them in a meaningful way and taking that on. So that kind of got me through it. I've moved a few times. I've made some real estate investments, and that was crazy moving during COVID. And so I think I really leaned into my spiritual practices, and I really leaned into my relationships and really my faith.
Yeah. So let's peel back the layers of this wisdom and experience that went into the book. First and foremost, let's find out exactly what you do. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hypothetically put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids, third graders, career day. One of the kids looks up and says, hey, what do you do for a living? How do you answer that child?
Yeah, I say I help people who are navigating life's uncertainties and sometimes cruelties and traumas and uncertainties. And so I help people like mom and dad, and even, maybe your older brother, sister, or maybe even you, help you really move through your emotional baggage and the emotional gravity that weighs you down, like stress and anxiety, deep-rooted insecurity, caring about what other people think, feeling judged. I really help people work through those less tangible roadblocks. And, to even simplify it more, I help people get rid of their self-doubt. I think even 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds have actually, gosh, when you're that age, it hasn't occurred to you to doubt yourself yet. But I think even in the grade school kids, there's self-doubt. They don't feel good enough. They're comparing themselves to Johnny sitting next to them and Susie, who's a better artist, and this person's better at math, and this person's cuter. This person has better clothes. So I think it does start at a really young age. And so I would say to them, I teach people how to value yourself for what's on the inside, and to cultivate those inner characteristics that we all can play up, like kindness, compassion, empathy, our intelligence, studying harder in school, and really caring about ourselves and other people in a deep and profound way.
So let's go back to when you were in the third grade or around that time. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Gosh, there was a time I wanted to be a veterinarian. I've always been such a huge animal lover. It's why I don't even eat meat, because I love animals so much. So I'm even that person. I really do love animals so much. I also grew up in a house where my father had Tom Brokaw on every night. So I remember sitting and I would watch him deliver the news. And so I did want to be a news anchor. And after I'd watched Tom, I'd go upstairs, and the animal lover that I am, I would deliver the news to my stuffed animals. And so I've always had that, writer, speaker, journalist quality within me. And I went on to pursue that, certainly. And I think I also wanted to be that person that, well, it's not really a career, but be that person that others look to bring the joy, bring the energy, bring the excitement, bring the humor. I think even as a kid, I was present to, wow, people seem stressed out, or, adults seem to take things really seriously, and don't really allow much time for play or fun.
Mhm.
So I think I've always wanted to be kind of that fun person on set or in the room, and get people to take themselves a bit less seriously, which I know isn't a career, but actually it is. Chris Rock, I'm thinking a lot of comedians are
Yeah.
coming to mind. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So how did all this begin? Tell me. So you're from Cincinnati. Tell me about your childhood, some of these seeds that were planted in you that became who you are today.
Yeah, so I was a competitive swimmer for 17 years, and I started swimming when I was a little kid in swim lessons. Absolutely hated it. And I write about this in my book, The Full Spirit Workout, because it was actually a comment from some swim instructor at Miami Hill Swim Club in Cincinnati, who communicated to my mother after swim lessons one day that he didn't think I was a very good swimmer, is what my 4-year-old self could gather. And I remember thinking, gosh, I don't want my parents to have a kid who's a bad swimmer. They're so athletic. And gosh, apparently I need to perform at a really high level. So I, feel safe in the world, and I have friends and people like me, and strangers don't talk badly about me behind my back, and certainly to my mother. And so, the good and bad news of that is that I developed a mentality that I went on to break every record at that swim club. Despite that man went on to be a state and national champion swimmer, and I got a scholarship athlete to Penn State, and had that whole career. But at what cost? I was constantly filled with anxiety and insecurity, and that I had to prove myself, and that my worth was all wrapped up in performance and achievement. And so I think it's just that good reminder for people to take a look at why you want to achieve the things that you want to achieve,
Mhm.
and really get a little more purity and authenticity in there. And I love goals and I love achievement, but I think it's we do things oftentimes to impress others, to please others, what we think it's going to mean for us when we achieve this thing. And then I don't know if you've experienced, but you achieve those things, and you're happy for 15 minutes, and then it's on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And so I definitely noticed myself in that pattern. And so the swimming career, and that emphasis on the physical and training our physical muscles to compete at a high level, as an adult, when I went through hardships, losing loved ones to suicide, having my own mental health crisis, I went back to school and really came up with a program and tools to train our mental and emotional and spiritual muscles, so we could all get fit, healthy, and strong on the inside, and have this inner musculature to weather any storm. And we've all been through so many storms these past few years in particular. The world has lost its mind. I'm sure everyone can attest to, whatever your beliefs are, it's lost its mind in some way, shape, or form, according to your personal beliefs. And we need these inner skills to really navigate life.
Well, at least as a byproduct of the pandemic, we're talking about mental health now. It's not something where it's like, oh, it's just this thing you got to get over. We're recognizing it as something much deeper. And then there's practitioners like you that are helping people get to a better place, because all of us had to kind of cross that bridge and really look and say, what are we doing with our lives? We aren't in control. We don't have a lot of time. What do we got?
Yeah. And I hope people came up with some meaningful answers. That's another reason I do the work that I do. And having people take a moment to sit quietly in a room by themselves and reflect and check in with yourself like you're a small child and ask, how are you doing? What do you need? What do you want? What's working? What isn't? And having all the distractions and devices off so you can actually listen to that inner wisdom, to God's spirit universe, if you believe in that, not the caca of the world, not the nonsense of the world, not all the social media and all this stuff telling us what we should be doing, who we should be. Where then it's just like, I don't even know who I am or where I fit into this. Or even me having these tools, there's moments where it's so overwhelming where I think, I don't even want to do any of this. Or there's all these like people pretending to be coaches or doing this work. And you're just kind of, and that's when you have to, take that step back, take that time and really check in with yourself and realize that the days you can't show up and do it for yourself, you do it for the people who don't have your skills, who don't have your privileges, who don't have the education or the means to move the needle and make a difference. And I hear that so many people, even, CEOs, professional athletes, people I work with who are great at what they do, but they're still filled with self-doubt. They have moments and areas of their lives where they don't feel confident. And I think that's a misconception too, that you reach a certain level, you look a certain way, you got a certain amount of money, these problems don't exist for you anymore. And oftentimes the success amplifies the deep feelings of inadequacy, sadly.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about your broadcast career.
Yeah, so I was what's known as a general assignment reporter. I was a local news reporter and anchor all over the country. But me being me, my career in that field started backwards, if you will, where I started in LA, reporting on the red carpets and at press junkets with all the A-list celebrities, and I absolutely loved it. Met a lot of incredible people. But me being me, always wanting to search for more truth and depth and meaning and substance and fulfillment, the conversations around how was it like to work with so-and-so, who are you dating, what are you wearing, it wasn't satisfying for me anymore. And so leaving that and going to Cook County court system in Chicago and all the gnarly things happening there,
Wow.
working with juvenile delinquents in the court system and judges and talking about those issues was actually more fulfilling for me. So that sent me on more of the hard news career. And then, when I couldn't, after years of that and not being able to get desensitized to the death and destruction, I, moved to Africa and was a journalist there, which was very rewarding. Really heartbreaking to see the deplorable conditions there. And then, came back here and started a whole other TV career at QVC and selling beauty products on TV all over the world. So I think that's a message in case you've forgotten or are wondering. You are multi-dimensional, you are multifaceted. No one can put you in a box, and feel free to always reinvent yourself and pivot multiple times. I think that's what we're meant to do. And I don't think we're meant to necessarily be in the same city, relationship, career our whole lives. If that's your thing, I have family members like that. Much love to you. And congratulations. You're not all over the place, but I think it's, I'm always someone to disrupt the status quo and to gently push people out of their comfort zones. I think that's where life gets a bit more juicy.
I think that's evolution, though. I think it's a part of the human growth thing. I think people get comfortable and stagnant, but if you push yourself, and I know that bug in the journalism world. I started in sports, and I'm like, how many times am I going to ask these people about what we already just saw? Like
Ooh.
I just it's
Ooh.
too much. Like, and
Yeah.
I was an intern with the Royals back when Hal McRae was the manager, and that was the time he did that infamous thing where he just totally threw all of the tape recorders off the desk and just lost his mind. Like, I
Yes.
the toxicity that went on in that clubhouse that I felt was like, I don't want anything to do with that. And I understand they're humans, and I'm not putting any of them down, but I'm just like, I can't do it. Too much.
Yeah. And I think this is an epidemic. People don't truly listen. when they're having any type of conversation. I think, I have felt the pain of not being seen, heard, or acknowledged by people who love me or claim to love me, and how sad that is. And I think with celebrities and superstars, they are dehumanized, and people think, well, you've got this fame, you've got this money, you've got this talent, I don't care about you, your feelings don't matter. And just the generic questions. I mean, I learned that. I'm glad I learned it super early in my career, 22, 23, where these celebrities are asked the same boring question over and over. And it just shows the journalists lack of depth. And so that was boring. And so I think even I learned and I could see them, like those press junkets I would sit in, and then being asked the same question over and over. And I think, whether this is work or outside of work, why can't we ask people richer questions to get underneath the hood of the car, to find out what really makes people tick, learn about them, and in turn learn about ourselves? And that's what I invite everybody to do. And it's why I went back to school and got my master's degree in executive and organizational coaching, and wanted to just learn how to connect with people on a deeper level. And it starts with deep listening, and it starts with asking meaningful questions, deeper than the question when people ask me. So I've tried to come up with a better way to answer it so I don't get annoyed. But what do you do? And when people say, what do you do? I don't think they really care or are interested. I think they're sizing you up. I think they're seeing, do I need to feel more or less insecure around this person? Are they doing better than me? It's rather than, I want to connect with you. Because if I want to connect with you, and this is kind of a boring question too, but I always love to ask people, which we did here, oh, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Right. Because especially in our case, where we're both from the Midwest, there's just there's that instant connection. You can laugh about different things, and you go back to childhood or what it was like growing up in the 90s or the Midwest. And so I'd much rather talk about the 90s in the Midwest rather than your accounting job.
Yeah, right.
Not you, but whomever did, right?
Yeah, said you. Yeah, absolutely. No, and good for you for evolving and get to that point in your life where you want something more, because I think a lot of people get stuck in it. So that leads me into my next question. Every day you get up, you are motivated to do the work that you want to do. What is that motivation? What's the gas in your tank, so to speak? What gets you through to do what you want to do?
Connection first and foremost. And even right now, and this, you do so many interviews, you're not paid $1 for it. Sure, you might sell a book. Books aren't money makers unless you're a huge celebrity. You can upsell your products or services, but for me, these are my favorite conversations to have. I love connecting with people. So my clients, it's about connecting deeply. Most of the time, they're not even getting that at home with their families. And so being that space for that, being the space for deep transformation and people really getting to know who you are. Because when you know who you are, you make better decisions. You treat yourself and others with more love and compassion. You perform better. You achieve more. You get all those things that you're striving for with seemingly less effort, because you spent the time to do the inner work. So for me, anytime I'm able to connect with someone in a meaningful way, that gets me out of bed in the morning. And sometimes if it's, a blank schedule for me that day, it's connecting deeper with myself, even when it's uncomfortable, even when I've done something that maybe I didn't love that I did, or, you get sick of yourself. I live alone. So it's just like, all right, enough time with myself already. But I think when you have that kind of respectful, loving relationship with yourself, it just trickles out into every area of your life. And it's so beautiful. And I think one of my biggest wishes for this world is that people would spend more time doing this rather than numbing themselves with so many things. And I say that with love, because I mean, we all still numb. I mean, hello, who needs 5 pieces of pizza? And am I that hungry, or am I trying to numb something? Right. So I hold myself accountable as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. And you come from that era of broadcasting where it's so refreshing to know that podcasting is here. There's such a therapeutic nature that goes into it. And we can have these conversations and we can see each other. I hear on Rogan all the time about how we live in probably one of the best eras. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff going on, but as far as like technology, I mean, we used to come from rotary phone days where if you got a hold of someone, you did. If you didn't, there was no message machine. It just happened. So I think the fact that we can talk and get to understand each other is just such a therapeutic way for us to live in such a divided, strange world we live in right now.
Yeah, and I think that's the good thing about podcasts, coming from TV, and this, where there's so many things you can't say. And so I think just where there's less editing and less you have to play a role or a character and do a job, which I respect and love. I love working in the TV space, but I think there's something about having more time. First of all, TV, what do you get? Like 3, 4, 5 minute segment, like you're in and out, where podcasts there is more long form, and that you can really get deeper into the heart of the matter, and maybe curse if need be, or talk about things that a lot of people don't want to talk about. I think that's what gets me out of bed in the morning too, is being able to have conversations that most people don't want to have, and making things like suicide prevention awareness and mental health less stigmatized and more just, hey, this is front and center here. There are so many issues going on right now that are dividing people. And I think it divides people because it's fear of the unknown, or this thing or person or situation is so different from me, therefore I don't like it. And that always boggles my mind, because I've always gravitated toward people who are so much different from me, because I think we learn more from those people. Or just, I think if you can have a kind, calm conversation, even if you completely disagree, we see this politically all the time. For me, I see so much growth and magic and transformation in sitting down with someone who shares your opposite beliefs, things that actually boil my blood, but being able to say, tell me a little bit more about why you believe that, or why is this important to you? Why do you think that this situation is harming your child? Something that I don't think is harming a child, for instance, and get to the root of that. I think it dissolves anger, and it really bolsters connection and understanding. And then when you meet someone else, in your neighborhood or town who behaves in that deplorable way, you think, wow, you think back to that conversation with Susie, and you're like, oh, they believe like Susie. And there's less toxicity and less resistance and more just acceptance.
Absolutely. So of all of the interviews that you've done, let's get into that real journalistic part of you. What would be a dream interview for you? Who would you love to talk to?
Oh gosh, at first I thought you were going to say who was a dream interview, and it just happened to me when I was in grad school in Chicago, and I got to interview Senator Barack Obama at the time,
Wow.
who went on to be President Obama. And so I think it's always, someone who is that intelligent and powerful, and regardless of what you believe, but someone who goes on to be president, they obviously, there's a lot there, a lot to experience. And I think so much what I've learned as a journalist is it's not even so much what people say, it's their energy, it's their presence. And that's what I work with clients with, is to really cultivate that strong presence and energy, where people just want to be around you. You have that magnetism. Who else? I mean, I feel like it's generic, of course I'd love to sit down with Oprah, because she's like the best of the best in my space. But I think it's more of, I want to talk to some of those people behind the scenes, like the people behind Oprah. Like I'd love to talk to Oprah's mother or father, and what was it like raising her? What was she like growing up? Did you see? I think that's what I want to see. I think that's a show I'm working toward, is about connection, but interviewing the people behind the people, that really help them get there, because none of us get there on our own. And maybe it's someone who, I mean, Oprah, for example, had kind of some bad, ugly characters in her life, but how they made her better. So gosh, I'm not answering your question that well, because no specific person. So I'll have to think about, no specific person is coming to mind. I think I want to talk to the people who deeply know themselves, and who are striving to make the world a better place, not because of what it's going to do for them or their pocketbook, but because of how it's going to uplift humanity. So, there's the Gandhis and Mother Teresa's and those people, but I'm looking for I'd love to see more of those 20 somethings who I see all half naked on TikTok, like talking about their green juice. I'd love to interview someone in that space with all their clothes on, who's helping humanity in a deeper way.
Yeah. No, I get it.
That's who I want to talk to. Where are they?
Yeah, right. No, that's a great journalistic answer to a question, because it's true. And it delves into who you've interviewed, and Barack Obama is huge. I mean, the energy and the compassion and the good that comes out of him is just so missed, and so, I think, necessary in this world. He did so much. I'm just astonished that he got in 2 times and did what he did. It blows me away to this day still. It's so good.
And no scandals,
No.
none of that. And whatever your beliefs are, I remember interviewing him and calling my mom after and saying, I just interviewed the most brilliant man I've ever met, and was just so, he's like this close to your face. And
Yeah.
it's like, whoa. But the words authenticity, brilliance, that presence,
Yeah.
that undeniable presence that we can all work on
Yeah.
more, whatever you're doing, from, janitor, stay-at-home mom, CEO, whatever you fancy. I think we can all work on our presence a bit more, where people say, wow, it feels good to be around this person. I feel more powerful myself.
So of all the things you've done in your life up to this point, what are you the proudest of?
I'm proudest of, I think it's just even recently, between COVID and things I've been through, and the book, where I'm certainly very proud of the book and the work that it takes. But even this past year, I've gone through something, pretty traumatic and disappointing. And so, and I try to be in the present, be in the present with presence. And I am most proud of how I have navigated a situation that even my coach said, wow, this could have ruined your life and destroyed you. And instead, you've used it as a catalyst for deep transformation and an opportunity to eliminate some patterns and beliefs and ways of being that weren't working ever. And that certainly, like, you can't carry anymore into the future. And I'm feeling like in this moment to invite people to think and consider, what if the worst thing that ever happened to you is also the best thing that ever happened to you? So I'm in that space. And I think that's a huge win for me, is taking seemingly the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and certainly losing loved ones to suicide, and then getting the master's degree, writing the book, helping people in that space. And now, it's even unwritten what's next for me in so many ways, but it's because of this and taking that seemingly, gosh, just like a coach said, gosh, this could have ruined your life. And I think a lot of people have been there, especially recently, and turning it into the best thing and best opportunity is something to be proud of. And I think this is a moment that whoever is listening, take that moment to be proud of yourself for getting through that, worst thing that ever happened to you.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into like the 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've led, the wisdom you've gained. What would you tell your young version?
It's all going to work out. You have so many blessings, and so many guides, and so many angels, and so many people around you who are going to help you. But most importantly, you are going to help you just keep going, keep trusting. The word confidence stems from the words to trust. And so I wish I would have known at a younger age to have that true confidence that no one can ever take from you. It starts with trusting in yourself, trusting in the process, trusting in God or a higher power, if that's your thing. I think just trusting, and just knowing that regardless of what you go through, it's all going to work out. It's going to be so much better than you could even imagine. But also, life is not just meant to be, or is ever going to be, just roses. But again, what we just spoke to is, hey, 20-year-old self, if you are able to see every person that you meet as a teacher, and you are able to look at everything that happens to you as a opportunity for transformation and wisdom and growth, you will literally be able to live the life of your dreams and get there a lot quicker, the sooner that you can truly embrace that fact.
Would that young version of you have listened?
Yeah. I wish, even when I wrote my book and was doing so much press with the book, I thought of that version of myself, and I'm like, wow, I wish she would have had this book then.
Yeah.
And I think dove into my spiritual practices at a much earlier age would have served me really, really, really well.
Yeah. So everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you're in control. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I am, sounds whatever. I think I've embraced this recently by the feedback I've gotten. I'm a badass. I can't be knocked down. A lot of people have tried. I've tried even myself to knock myself down unknowingly. I am someone who is never going to give up, even when I want to. And I may take a rest, I may take a pause, but my perception of me is that I'm pretty unstoppable and untouchable. And it's simply because I have been willing to do the really deep, painful work that most people don't want to do because it can suck. I have a really intensive coaching session later today after this, and I'm excited for it, but also I'm like, man, I'm gonna be tired after this, but it's worth it. It's like that. It's like doing 100 burpees at the gym.
Yeah, for sure. So if anyone wants to get your book, learn more about you, anything pertaining to your world, where is the best place to go?
Yeah, just go on over to thefullspiritworkout.com or kateeckman.tv. That's KateEckman.tv. Would love to connect with you there, pick up the book and join the community. And let's all work out together on the inside. Let's get fit, strong, confident together on the inside and really build that inner musculature that can weather any storm. It's so worth it.
Yeah.
It is like working out at the gym. It may be uncomfortable, hot, sweaty in the moment, but you feel so great afterwards with all those endorphins. So it's building those inner endorphins and becoming that unstoppable, really untouchable version of yourself where no one can mess with you. And that's a really, really, wow, empowering place to be.
Yeah. What an evolved story that you presented. Thank you. Thank you for opening up. It's so good to see and to hear how there's this constant striving towards something that's better and stronger. So thank you. Thank you for opening up.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to meet you and be with you today.
Nice to meet you. Take care. Best of luck.
Bye-bye.
See ya.